Hi there, it's Beth. I'm gardening in the upper Midwest, Zone 6A, ecoregion, US Central Plains. I was hoping to do a garden tour for the month of July. I never got around to doing a proper garden tour. It's been a busy month. I wanted to share just a few highlights of my garden throughout the month. I hope you enjoy. So in early July, the roses were still blooming, and then the Culver's root started to come in too and just made a really pretty combination over here. And the Monarda was also coming in by this point, and I'm still just so amazed at how tall the plants are up against the garage. And so then we also had the anise hyssop coming in really good. You can also see the mountain mint, that's the white flowering plants that are a little bit shorter. So that was flowering really strongly throughout the month of July. I took a lot of footage of the combination of rose and Ohio spiderwort. I love spiderworts. I think that's my favorite native flower, possibly. I kind of like something that probably a lot of people don't, which is that they open in the morning and then they kind of close up in the heat of the day, but I feel like it just makes them extra special. And they're also just beautiful and really easy to grow, and the bees love them. I feel like what's not to love? I'm seeing a lot more butterflies in the garden this year. We've had a few monarchs, but a lot of swallowtails. And during this time, you can also see the color combination that I was really trying to achieve in this prairie garden, the burgundies. So in the seed heads of the penstemon, you can especially see it combined with the cone heads of the echinacea. I'm hoping that the Culver's root continues to self-seed through the prairie garden because I think it just looks really dramatic, and it did end up blooming for a really long time, basically throughout the month of July. And of course, with July comes cicadas. I just love that sound in the evening. It just tells me it's summertime. We also have noticed a lot more fireflies in the yard this year, and I think that's because of all the plants we've been adding and the way that we have taken care not to disturb the leaf litter and to keep all that organic matter on site, because of course that is the firefly's habitat. So this is the button bush that's in bloom. I just love the flowers on this thing. They kind of remind me of the COVID viruses, but button bush is a better name than COVID bush, I guess. And then this is my weed garden. So someday I hope to, maybe next year, turn this into our vegetable garden. But for now, I just don't have time to do anything with it. So the little time that I've had this year to weed, I mostly spend just targeting the ones that are really tough to get rid of. And I think I maybe, fingers crossed, maybe turning a corner with the creeping bellflower. But yeah, I basically let the weeds go to town here. And then I've also seeded in some annuals like zinnias and sunflowers to make it look a little bit prettier, hopefully. Although, I don't know, I think it's mostly just weeds, so take that for what it's worth. In the shade garden, the cohosh was still blooming. It blooms for a really long time. It blooms all the way up that stalk. And so that looked fantastic kind of all the way through July. And then I still had that hairy wood mint blooming. And I also just really enjoyed seeing that something has been eating my pawpaw tree. It's the host plant for the zebra swallowtail butterfly. I don't think that any zebra swallowtails have found it yet, but I keep hoping maybe someday. Not a whole lot going on in the shade garden, but I did want to show you guys the American bellflower or tall bellflower that is in bloom back here. That's one of the few things that will bloom kind of during these summer months in a shade garden. And then back to the prairie garden a few days later, because I noticed that by this point the liatris was finally starting to bloom. And on my way to go look at it, I found a hummingbird moth. I just think those are such cool creatures. I'm so glad that I have some here. I've also noticed that there are a lot more bumblebees in the garden this year. So that's actually what has prompted me to stop and take video in a lot of these cases. I love watching the bumblebees just being so busy and going from flower to flower. So that's really exciting to see. And the shrubs at the back, those are Hicks yews. I planted them when they were itty bitty things, and I'm just waiting for them to get big enough to kind of form a hedge and sort of create a backdrop for all of the prairie plants. Another exciting visitor was this dragonfly that I found resting in the weed garden. And now, in the end of July, the yellows are really starting to take over. I had planned this garden with mostly like these burgundies and pinks, but then into autumn, I feel like yellow is such a classic prairie flower color. I decided here, instead of trying to fight that color, to just embrace it. So the Rudbeckia is finally starting to go. I also have some non-native bronze fennel in here to really tie that yellow in. And then the Monarda is still going. I actually did not expect that this raspberry wine Monarda would still be in bloom by this time. But it keeps blooming for a really long time. And then here I've got some showy milkweed, which is still really young. Maybe next year it'll be blooming. I've got some Bouteloua curtipendula or Cytotes grama. The flowers on this are just really lovely, like delicate little orange fringe on them. I really love the inflorescence on that grass. And then you can see that the liatris is fully in bloom, really hitting its peak here. I'm hoping that I continue to get more of the liatris as the garden matures. This anise hyssop, I think, is a cultivar of some kind. It looks a lot different from the other anise hyssop in my yard. The nursery I got it from sells both native and non-native plants. I'm happy with it though. I don't care one way or the other. I think it looks great. It is really tall in this space though. I'm already thinking about, I'll probably move it to another part of the garden and maybe put something a little bit lower growing there to be a better companion to this purple sedum that's here. In the background, you can see some white clover, which is obviously not a native species, but that's another area that I'm kind of just letting go for now, not really actively gardening it. I have to admit, I love it. I think it just has a wonderful gauzy texture that catches the evening sun. The sun sets in the west, like right behind it, and it just kind of like catches the light, and it just looks magical in the evening. And here's the little rattlesnake master poking through. That's another one that I hope will self-seed a little bit and I'll have a little more of. And you can see the culver's root is just about done by this time. And this is some rose milkweed. So it does like moist soils, but it can handle soils that are maybe only medium moist. It self-seeds all over my yard, but I've started to discover that the seedlings in drier areas, like maybe medium soils, don't end up growing very quickly, or in some cases they don't even bloom at all. So it really does need soil that is on the moister side. It can grow in standing water. It grows in standing water in my rain garden, but it doesn't need quite that much moisture. It can handle it a little bit drier. Heading over to the rain garden, I'm a little disappointed in how floppy my Queen of the Prairie is. The flowers are incredible, but this plant flops over almost immediately. So I'm thinking I might have to move it and then probably stake it when it's in bloom. And then this is my bone set, which I also love. It tends to stay right by the rain garden because it just really loves that moist soil. I haven't seen it popping up anywhere else in my yard. And I have a whole lot of rose milkweed in my rain garden. Over here on the other side of the rain garden is ironweed. It's in full bloom right now. I love the purple color. I think it's just wild. And this is the Rudbeckia fulgida in bloom. And you can also see that the mountain mint is still in bloom. I think they look great together. Over here is a bed that's closer to the house. I really just kind of threw some echinacea seed in there, and this jump seed, I think it's called, self-seeded in. It's kind of a weed all over the place in this area, but I think the combo looks great together. And then this is my service berry. We had a lot of berries this year. Most of them got eaten by the birds. But I love seeing when insects are using the leaves, and I love the leaf cutter bees. They cut these perfect circles in the leaves. It looks so cool. And here's the button bush. So by this point it has gone to seed, but I think the seed heads look really cool too.